Hey everybody, it's time. It's past time. It is Tuesday. It is live stream. Here I am, streaming live, talking to you. And there's two people watching. So it's all about my haircut today. What do you think? Looks good, huh? No, I do not have cancer, nor am I undergoing chemotherapy. Again. So what's it look like? Well, you're going to have to ask. I'm going to need a lot of different asks before I reveal it. So in the meantime, well, what is there to do? I suppose we can go to Twitter. So, there we are. Hey, let's look at my Twitter. Very nice. Okay. So we'll start with some virtue signaling. So the folks who tried to prevent a black girl from going to school in 1957 are opposed to their grandchildren learning about how they tried to prevent a black girl from going to school in 1957. Really? That's the opposition to teaching critical race theory to children, is it? Is people who were around in 1957? I'd say let's do some math, but I've already done the math. It's simple math, but I checked it with Alexa. It's correct. Simple math, folks. Someone who was 25 years old in 1957 is 89 today, which is to say most of them are dead or soon will be. Are we to believe that the primary opponents of your agenda are either dead or at death's door knocking loudly? And you haven't won an uncontested victory? You haven't struck the knockout blow? When most of your opponents are doddering, senseless, wheelchair-bound, or more likely, long dead? Good God, what are you doing? What are you doing if you can't beat dead people? If dead people are out-arguing you and persuading more people of their case than you are? You who enjoy the benefits of having the lords of tech on your side. They can kick anybody off the internet who doesn't say what you want them to say. Now, there's a nice image. All right. So, here's another brilliant quote from me today. Look at that. Three whole likes. Let's play Squid Game, says Arsenal Rain. I've seen Squid Game. I liked it. But, brilliant tweet from me today. I said, when America was ruled by authoritarian Christian moralism, we got the drug war. Now that woke is the ideological flavor of the decade, you'd think the new bosses could take some time away from language policing to dismantle the drug war. But no, they're fine with it. To which Ed the Willing, posted the following. This is a nice thing to see. Whoops, no. Come on, now here we are. It's a little animation. U.S. cannabis legalization. So we start off, the whole country is red, that means prohibited. Then we go to this sort of coral color, to decriminalize, to orange, which is CBD trials or access, to yellow, decriminalize, and CBD trials or access. Mint green is medical psychoactive, not sure what that means. Green, decriminalized and medical psychoactive, and green, deep green is legalized. All right, so here we are, we're watching this progression. All right, 2016. So 1939, whole country's red. 1978, we get a few little patches experimenting with, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of common sense, not putting people in prison for growing a plant. But here's the thing. Even though the whole country was red like that in 1939, the prison population didn't explode until the 1980s, when the Democrats, the Democrat-controlled Congress, passed a mandatory minimum sentencing law that took discretion out of the hands of judges and gave all the power in the courtroom to the prosecutor. And yes, we have this decades-long struggle to reverse the catastrophic consequences of that moral panic and the hastily passed destructive legislation. Thank you, Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill, for filling the prisons, with your hysteria over the death of a rising college basketball star named Len Bias. Now, there was another Another bill passed in the 90s, which even it exacerbated the harms of mandatory minimum sentencing and caused the prison populations to boom. Again, this was under the Democrats. Thank you, Bill Clinton and Hillary, for your lovely super predators comment. Yes, that is what filled the prisons. Now, yes, there's been progress, but it wasn't the woke idiots who have made this progress. There have been people who, since the 80s, have been trying to undo the harms of mandatory minimum sentencing and the drug war. It wasn't the wokesters. It wasn't people trying to get, working class people fired from their jobs because they don't have the lexicon and the refined speech habits of, humanities majors and professors at elite universities. So I understand, this is a bit of bright-sidedness, but it's certainly no response. It is no refutation to the point I'm making about how the wokesters are way too attached to coercion and, just submission to authority and moral purity than they are to actually doing any good for any real human beings in the world. All right. Didn't mean to get that animated and grumpy straight out of the gate. So again, really, we're here to talk about my new haircut. But you have to ask about it in the chat. You have to ask creative questions to get me to reveal. And I don't even know what it's going to look like after having been wrapped like this for a while. Hey, let's go back to the laptop. Alrighty, so this is my Twitter, my actual Twitter. Finally, I figured out how to show it to you. Not Twitter, Instagram. So it's Inktober, which means every day people are doing these fabulous, luscious, gorgeous, black and white ink. I would call them ink paintings, in Inktober. I open up my sketchbook and I grab a ballpoint pen and I scratch out something like this. Usually I'll have some reference displayed on the iPad, which is, laid down right next to the sketchbook or on the opposite page of the sketchbook. So this is from the Dark Crystal. This was day 1 of Inktober, Crystal. Day 2, Suit. Day three, I almost forgot. I was just about to go to bed and I realized, oh man, I haven't drawn anything today. And Vessel. Vessel was the prompt. Not on day 4. Day 5 was Raven. Anybody get this one? This one didn't get very many likes. Day 6, Spirit. Anybody get this one? Day 7, Fan. Day 8, Watch. Frickin' boil already. Day 9, Pressure. Day 10, Pick. Try and maybe fail or cynical posturing. Yes, this is the Geb Gallery in the uplift.world. It's kind of a multiplayer Minecraft sort of situation, but really Minecraft is just the game engine. The actual game is called Uplift, and it's a NFT-based metaverse where I have built a Geb art gallery. Day 11, Sour. This is not for Inktober. This is just me messing around in Adobe Fresco. There we are. Alrighty, day 13, Stuck. Well, what does this have to do with Stuck? Well, he's in a hole. But, dude, if you took your hands out of your pockets, you could reach the top of the hole you're stuck in. I should remember, I just said the one before. Day 13, Roof. Not particularly pleased with this one, but it got more likes than the Raven. Aha. Day 14, tick, spoon. So, I didn't want to draw based on somebody else's drawing, so this is one of the live action tick shows. I don't know which one. I know Amazon had a live action tick show for a while, and there was another live action tick show. I don't think there's one going on right now, but in one, I notice his whole face is exposed, and in another, he's got a half mask, so he's got a mask from the eyes up. I don't know which one this is. The tick that I'm most familiar with is a comic book, but I think there was an animated version as well, I seem to recall. Ferns growing out of a rock wall. It is a beautiful time of year in Vermont right now. I walk to the store almost every day, and it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So here's some more gorgeousness. Now, my poor phone. Well, I'll talk about my phone later. Let's stay in the laptop here. Day 15, helmet. So a lot of people liked this one, or 15, but it also got some likes over on Twitter. This is just me copying a photograph. There's nothing particularly creative about it. Now this one, this took like as long as the past three that you just saw, and I wasn't all that pleased with it. Just lots of little fiddly, drawing of little lines to create the illusion of a tone. Anyway, compass. Compass was the prompt for that day. Day 17, collision. And day 18, that was yesterday, moon. So this is Joyce from Geb. Anybody know what this symbol is? Oh, I'll go back to the chat and see if there's anybody talking. Ed says, I want to see Inktober drawings. Well, Ed, I didn't read your request, but I guess I anticipated it. Ed knows. Ed, what is this symbol on Joyce's cheek? I'm waiting for something in the chat. It is polka dot. That's right. And Pinterest? No, it's just polka dot. What does the Pinterest P look like? I have a Pinterest account, but I haven't accessed it in many months. Let's see. Pinterest. Oh, it's pretty close, isn't it? They're pretty similar. But I was looking at the polka dot. What's polka dot, says Jason. Polka dot is a cryptocurrency. It is gaming oriented, and it is one that is meant to allow various projects to run on multiple blockchains at once. And their price is probably going to spike because they've just announced the date for their parachain auctions. But unless anybody's really interested in the nitty-gritty of what parachain auctions are, we'll move on. Not ready for business tools? What? I don't know what this is. Pinterest? I have no idea what you're asking of me. All right. Alrighty. This is Mocha, my cat. She gave me a scare last night. I looked up. I was working on a podcast. I looked up. I noticed it was dark, and she was outside. And I thought, oh, she's not allowed to be outside after dark. So I went out, and I called to her. And usually when I call, she doesn't necessarily come running because, she's a three-legged cat. Running is not her specialty. But she usually responds vocally to, when I call her. And then I can walk around and find where she is and pick her up and carry her inside. And she did not return my greetings. And I walked all around the building, and I looked through the bushes, and I was kind of worried because, she's only been going outside for a couple weeks now, and she doesn't really know the area. And again, as I say, she's a three-legged cat. There are dogs and cats and cars and, various other threats to a three-legged kitty's well-being and bodily integrity. And so I was a little bit worried, but, see her torn ear there, right here? That's from a fight that she got into with some critter in the woods in Tennessee. But I went back inside and I resumed editing the podcast, but I unplugged the headphones and, so I was just listening through the computer speakers, and I could, I could listen for her meow when she's at the door. And she never did meow, but at one point, just, on an intuitive little flash, I stepped away from the computer. I looked over out the window, and I'm, up on the second floor, so I'm looking down at a parking lot. It's dark. She's a black cat, but I see a particular shadow that says to me, that could be a cat. So I opened the window and I called to her, and she moved her head just a little bit, and it caught a light somewhere, and I could see her glowing yellow eyes. And I knew she was there, but she wasn't meowing to come in. She was just sitting down there in the parking lot, one cat-shaped shadow among many shadows, just looking up at me. So I went down and I brought her in. Alrighty. Again, nobody's asked to see my haircut. This is what we're all here for, isn't it? Alrighty. Well, as I say, folks, I've got nothing prepared, so ask me a question and I will answer. I guess the one question on the board is, what's polka dot? So let's get more on polka dot than I can reproduce from memory. Let's just ask DuckDuckGo. What is polka dot? Polka dot is a pattern consisting of an array of large filled circles of the same size. Yeah, let's try this one. All right. Polkadot is a software that seeks to incentivize a global network of computers to operate a blockchain on top of which users can launch and operate their own blockchains. In this way, Polkadot is one of a number of competing blockchains aiming to grow an ecosystem of cryptocurrencies. Other notable examples include Ethereum, Cosmos, and EOSIO. I don't know that last one, never heard of it. All right. However, Polkadot launched in 2020 is among the newest and introduces a number of novel technical features toward its ambitious goal. To begin, Polkadot is designed to operate two types of blockchains: a main network called a relay chain, where transactions are permanent, and user-created networks called parachains. Parachains can be customized for any number of uses and feed into the main blockchain so that the parachain transactions benefit from the same security of the main chain. With this design, the Polkadot team contends transactions can be kept secret and accurate using only the computing resources required to run the main chain. Users, though, gain the added benefit of being able to customize many parachains for many different uses. The Polkadot team believes this design will let its users perform transactions more privately and efficiently, creating blockchains that don't disclose user data to the public network or that otherwise possess a greater number of transactions. To date, Polkadot has raised roughly $200 million from investors across two sales of its DOT cryptocurrency, making it one of the most well-funded blockchain projects in history. Users seeking to stay connected to the project's current development status can follow the official Polkadot project roadmap for up-to-date details. All right. Let's see, what do we got here? I'm trying to guess the haircut first. Okay, well, what's your guess? What's your guess? Ed says, if you were a Sikh, you would not cut your hair. If I were a Sikh, I would probably live my life differently in many ways. But yes, cutting the hair. Ed says, will you go to see Dune in the movie theater? Yes, I will, and thank the gods and the emperor and the spice. Dune will be opening here in Bellows Falls at the Bellows Falls Opera House Movie Theater on Friday, the 22nd, opening day. So yes, I thought I was going to have to watch it on HBO Max, and I probably will watch it later again on HBO Max. But I get to see it on the big screen. Okay, Jason's going with cue ball. That's a good guess. It might be right. Let's see. Who else is excited about Dune? I'm super excited about Dune. And it's weird, I'm avoiding spoilers, but I've read the novel multiple times. I've seen the David Lynch movie multiple times. I've seen the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries multiple times. I don't think there's anything to spoil plot-wise. I'm pretty sure I know the plot. It's really the visuals that I'm going for and the actors' performances. What a cast. All right. Jason has already seen it. He got to see a screener. What'd you think? At this point, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to call up YouTube. This could kill the feed right here, kill the stream, but let's just have the trailer running. Ed says, I'm excited about Dune. I re-listened to the audiobook and I'm reading the graphic novel. I've never seen the graphic novel, nor have I ever heard the audiobook. But here we go. Dune official trailer. What's it say? YouTube privacy warning. YouTube, owned by Google, does not let you watch videos anonymously. As such, watching YouTube videos here will be tracked by YouTube/Google. Wild. Alrighty. Let's go full screen and mute. There we are. So, here's Zendaya as Chani. I hear she's barely in it. And this is only the first half of the first book, so it makes sense that she really wouldn't be in it very much. Yeah, what else we got? There's a spice harvester, I think. And there's Chani again. Spice harvester again. And what's all this? Is this when the Harkonnens attack? That looks like the Beast Raban. It's played by Dave Bautista. Alrighty, Chani again. Well, she rules the trailer, even if she's not in the film much. Wow, there's Paul. All right, this is on Caladan, I'm guessing. And Duncan Idaho, as played by Jason Momoa. A lot of people were not happy with that or that casting choice. Jason says, very good, not disappointing one bit. And Ed has posted in the Goodreads link to the book. Parker says, I just watched the leaked version yesterday, thought it was great. All right. I'm trying to keep my expectations low. All right, there's the shield. Boy, the shield tech was really janky looking in the David Lynch version, wasn't it? All right, there we are on Dune, Arrakis. You know, an interesting discussion would be to get some folks on to talk about some of the later novels, because they did get really very esoteric and weird and quirky. And, I hate to say it, but kind of boring. Like Chapter House Dune, I didn't even finish it. I think I got 3/4 of the way through, and I realized, one, he's not gonna wrap it up. Two, he died shortly after the novel was published, so there's going to be no satisfying conclusion to the story. And three, I don't really care where it goes from where I stopped. The ornithopters look amazing. In every previous iteration of Dune on screen, they just didn't have the technology to really bring the ornithopters to life, and those just look great. All right, there's Duncan Idaho again. Duncan Idaho, the only character to appear in all 6 books. I don't know if Jason Momoa is really up for all of that. We'll see. I think the sandworms look good. I wasn't wild about just the round orifice with those super long teeth when I first saw it, but it's grown on me. Alrighty, look at that. So I guess we're going to get to see Paul's duel with Jameis. Rebecca Ferguson kind of pissed me off. She was dissing Frank Herbert in the original novel, which she claims not to have read. She tried to read it, got a few pages into it, and was disgusted. Yeah, whatever, lady. As long as you can remember your dialogue and say it on command, you look the part. You've got a good director to move you through it. Alrighty, there we go. Amazing. All right. What do we got here? Ed says, the director is from Quebec. We are proud of local boy done good. Yes. Well, if you were here, I'd ask you how you pronounce his name. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, and the one that rings true to me is Denis Villeneuve, but who knows? The French are weird with their consonants. Parker says, oh, okay, it was pretty good then. And Ed says, KMO, do you think that prophets, messiahs, special humans are an actual thing? A prophet is somebody who is a hortatory leader, somebody who tells his society, or I suppose could be her society, that they're not living up to their ideals. So, yeah, a prophet is not necessarily somebody who can see the future. In fact, that's not what the word means. But, yeah, I mean, historically there have been prophets. There are people that fill that role. Messiah. Messiah is a tough one. If by Messiah you mean somebody who is actually appointed by God to effect some grand social change, then no, there are no Messiahs. But there certainly is a Messiah complex. And yeah, lots of people have it. Alrighty. Special humans are an actual thing? Well, come on. Man, loud out there. Colin's not here tonight, so we have new folks at the controls, at the wheel. All right. KMO says, oh yeah, I read that. I mean, I'm KMO, and I say the truth as I understand it, what little piece of it I get to glimpse. Parker says, I saw on IMDb, the director of this movie is doing a TV show on the Bene Gesserit. Yeah, I've read that as well, and I don't really know anything about it, but, you know, the Bene Gesserit, they are, I think the first time I read the book, and certainly when I saw the David Lynch film, I didn't really appreciate how deeply and fundamentally the plot of Dune, like the overarching large-scale historical plot, really is dependent upon the actions of and the machinations and the long-term strategy of the Bene Gesserit. And the David Lynch film sort of implied that they had psychic powers, that they had telepathy and such, which, you know, they didn't in the book. Also, the weirding way, you know, which is the martial arts that come from the Bene Gesserit's ability to really control their body down to, you know, the single muscle fiber, and their really quick reflexes, and their, you know, thorough understanding of human physiology and anatomy. That is such a fascinating concept, and in the David Lynch film, they swapped that out for this weird thing where people had guns that were activated by sounds that they made with their throats, and they had these like vocal mic pickups, and that was really squirrely and weird. But apparently, Frank Herbert got to see the David Lynch, you know, the 1984 David Lynch film before he died, and he loved it. So, you know, if the creator's okay with it, I'm okay with it. I had, like, when I was first reading the novel, I was in high school. I think I was a junior in high school when the movie came out. And I waited to go see the movie because I hadn't finished the book yet. So when I went to see the film, I had just finished reading the book for the first time like a day or two before that. And to have the book fresh in your mind and then go see that David Lynch adaptation, it was, you know, I was quite disappointed upon my initial viewing. And yeah, some of the changes that I'm okay with now, I was definitely not okay with at the time. The weirding modules, the weirdness of the Bene Gesserit, and just the fact that, you know, Denis Villeneuve is doing this right. That's definitely not, that whole book is not something you can squeeze down into a 2-hour movie. So he's doing the first half of the book in 2.5 hours. Really, I think it should be a miniseries. I mean, I think it should just be on HBO. It should be like 10 episodes for the first book. But, you know, Denis Villeneuve, he makes movies. But he's also going to make TV shows. And I've never read any of the books written by Frank Herbert's son. I probably never will. I'm told that they're entertaining in the way that a Tom Clancy novel is entertaining. And nothing against Tom Clancy. I read The Hunt for Red October when it was fairly current. I think I was in high school for that again. But it's just not my thing. Not my thing. All right. More guesses on the hair. What's the haircut? What is it? Or say something about my shirt. Is anybody watching Star Trek Lower Decks? What's up?
Mohawk?
Alex says Mohawk. All right.
Manchu monk.
So we've got cue ball, we've got Mohawk. What else? Other guesses? Mm-mm-mm. All right. Come on, chat. Give me something to work with. Or I'll just riff on what? Science fiction? I'm listening to the third book in a trilogy that is something like I've stepped down my Audible subscription to the $7 level where you don't get any audiobook credits, but they have all kinds of stuff on there that you can listen to. And they put up a lot of books, for people at that subscription level. And the author's name is Swann, Sawnn, I think. And the book that I'm reading now is called Messiah. And it's neat. It's Apotheosis. So S. Andrew Swann is the name of the author. And let's see. Let's just go to Goodreads. How about that? How about that? Come on. Okay. Can we get a bigger version of the cover? Enlarge cover. Oh, give me a break. Sign in. For your security, we're going to display this on a live stream for you. Thank you. What all that is, I have no idea. Please go away. Forget it. Amazon, you are definitely harshing my mellow here. All right. Perker says, I was just thinking of asking you about Lower Decks. I have not watched the most recent season. I haven't either, and it's just because I'm not going to subscribe to Paramount Plus just to watch that one show. I actually liked Lower Decks better than I like any other iteration of current Trek. Even though I think the Star Trek Rick and Morty mashup is not really a good fit, at least it looks like Star Trek. Whereas Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard don't look like Star Trek. They don't feel like Star Trek. Alrighty. Jason says, I'm currently reading old Frank Baum stories. Are you familiar? Just The Wizard of Oz. Let's see. Ed says, Dear KMO, the Montreal Canadians, or what is that word? Canadians will do a Indigenous land claim statement at the beginning of every home hockey game. Huh. That sounds very Canadian, Ed. I don't know what to make of that. But there were no permanent native settlements in Montreal area when Europeans first arrived here. Yeah. As far as I understand, historical, the actual history of these issues are not particularly important to the people who really make a big deal out of using the virtue signal. For example, there are people who say that white people shouldn't do yoga because that's cultural appropriation. But yoga was actually developed by guys in India who were looking to take advantage of the fascination with physical fitness and health practices in the West in order to create a vehicle by which to appeal to the interests of white people and get them interested in Hinduism. Yoga was meant as an evangelical movement from the get-go. From its very inception, it was designed to appeal to people outside of India. Okay, what is this bullshit? For your security, approve the notification. Oh, sent to my phone. Duh. Amazon. Mm-hmm. So my phone is budding. Look at this. It's creating a child. Let's see. Where can I? Huh. No, I've got this little plug-in USB device. I'm backing up the contents of my phone. So I've got video on here from my trip to Puerto Rico, which is like a year and a half ago at this point. I've got video on here from my trip to Maine this past summer. And basically, I've got so much video on this phone that I can't shoot new video. So I'm backing up, but it's super slow. It's been going for hours, and it's barely scratched the surface. All right. So now that I've picked up the phone, Amazon has let me into Goodreads, but it's not showing me the page that I wanted to see. S. Andrew Swan, is it? There we are. Prophets is book one of this series. So as I say, if you are a member of Audible at any level, you have access to this for free. And of course, it being a science fiction book, the cover is very generic. It doesn't really have much to do with the actual story, but it's pretty cool. It feels a lot like Ian M. Banks' Culture series. I mean, it's a space opera. It also kind of feels like Revelation Space, but it's got its own unique twist. But it also kind of feels like Ringworld. Like there's a character he's not a Kzinti, but he's this he's of a member of a species that was created by genetic manipulation by humans to be a soldier, kind of like Tool in the books by Paolo Bacigalupi that start with Shipbreaker. Tool is this genetically engineered soldier, and he's got dog and tiger and hyena and gorilla and human DNA in him. And gosh, what's the character's name? It's Nikolai. Nikolai Rajasthan is the name of this character in Prophets and the two books that follow it. And he's a pretty interesting sort of entry point character. Like he's not the focal point, he's not the point of view character, but he's the one that stands out in my memory right now. And he's got the sort of most interesting story. He was a noble, and he had an affair with a servant and got her pregnant. And his family interceded, sent the servant off, to be someplace else, and pushed him into an arranged marriage very quickly to cover it up. But because she was pregnant, it was impossible to cover it up and prevent the priests that are, the arbiters of the religious values of his society from stepping in and punishing him. So they drowned his cubs. They flayed his mistress alive. But for him, because he was a noble, they couldn't kill him. So what they did was they blinded him, and they cut off his right arm, and then they dumped him on a human planet. And these creatures, which were bred by created by genetic engineering by humans, I don't know how far in the past, generations at least. They consider the humans to be the fallen, and it is abject humiliation to be stuck with the humans, particularly to be dependent on them, because he's blind and one-armed, and he ends up working as a bouncer in a bar. And then somebody recruits him to go on a mission. They have him join this mercenaries union and go on a mission. And to do that, they give him cybernetic eyes and a cybernetic arm. So he's the most interesting character to me. I think the character who's supposed to be the most interesting starts out as the point of view character. He's a priest. And in this universe, there's probably hundreds. I'm not sure the exact number, but probably hundreds of settled human planets. They have a sort of faster than light travel. And the two major political forces in this fictional universe are the Roman Catholic Church and the Islamic Caliphate. And the main character, the person who starts out to be the main character, is a priest. I think he's a Jesuit, and he's a professor, a college professor at the start of the story. But before that, he'd had a long military career. And he gets sent by the Pope, or the Pope's Secretary of Defense, I think, to go on this secret mission, and he adopts this alias. And it's pretty interesting at first, and it reminded me a lot of that book, The Sparrow. Anybody read The Sparrow? And its follow-up, Children of God? That's from ages ago. But that's also a book where the main character is a Jesuit priest, and he goes to another planet, and bad stuff happens. Let's see. Parker says, I've been watching Foundation. Yeah, I've been watching Foundation too. At first, all I could say about it was it's pretty. I couldn't really commit to saying that I thought the story was good. But the more it goes on, the more I'm interested. It is, as far as I remember, I mean, it's been forever since I read those books, and I have not revisited them. They were never favorites of mine, so I'm not attached to them, and I'm not going to be, reflexively offended at any changes they make. And the changes are pretty extreme. But these days, that's the one thing I'm looking forward to each week in terms of, shows where I know what day it comes out. Thursday. So, yeah, I'm really digging Foundation. Parker continues, it's okay to good so far, and don't have a settled opinion on it 4 episodes in. I think it's 5 episodes in at this point, and I like it. Well, I'll just come right out and say it. I really like it. It looks great, and I'm interested in the characters, and, the required woke elements are not so jarring and in your face. Let's see, the characters come out and say it on not Trantor, but on Terminus, in the Foundation encampment. The barbarian leader, who comes and stages this attack. Of course, the barbarian leader is female, and she comments that the people at Terminus, of the Foundation people, the women are more competent than the men, and it's true, in the story, not in the book, but in the TV show. Yeah. Right. I hear Alex repeating me out there. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So, why do they want to make these ahistorical statements, says Ed. Ed, we don't have time. I'd rather talk about science fiction, actually. Parker says, I binged What If. Okay, What If? I'll happily talk about that. Let me finish Parker's comment. After it had been on for 8 episodes, I was not going to because who cares what if, but I found they were like the remix to a song. So What If was a comic book from, I was reading it when I was a kid, like when I was 13, 14. The very first episode of it was what if Rick Jones had become the Hulk? And Rick Jones is not a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it was, he was somebody who was present when Bruce Banner originally got irradiated and turned into the Hulk. And in this story, Bruce goes to push Rick into the ditch to shield him from the blast, and Rick, throws Banner in, and Rick gets irradiated. So they've done all kinds of really groovy what-if stories. And, I've known the character of the Watcher since I was a kid. So for me, this whole what-if thing is not new. And I think the animation, the character design, everything visually about the What If series on Disney is first rate. It is absolutely beautiful. I wish the animated Star Wars stuff was as smooth and as textured and developed as the character animation in What If. The stories have been hit or miss for me. I'm not so attached to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that changing things in it bothers me. The final ones though, like the final 2, I thought were really good, and I really liked the Doctor Strange episode. Let's see. So Parker says, yeah, I'd like to remix to a song. Ed says, at Parker, I would like to see Foundation, but I need Apple TV and I don't have that. It's not that expensive. It's only like $4 or $5 a month. I mean, it's not like Netflix, which I just resubscribed to watch Squid Games, and it was like $14, $15. Jason says, money, Ed. Yep. Parker says, something you were familiar with but different, enjoyable in that way. Benner Rubber says, watch any of those Timcast shows I sent you? I watched a segment. It wasn't very long, but yeah, it was from a link that you sent me. Let's see. People love the Culture series. I have access to a family member's audio. I might check it out. Do. The Culture is amazing. 5 minutes? Okay. Some of the books are more accessible than others, so don't start with, do start with the first one. Consider Phlebas. And if you like that, I would say go on to Use of Weapons. But some of the later ones are pretty hard to access, I would think, in audio form. Parker says, I'm worried about you, Benner Rubber, falling into the Tim Pool rabbit hole. Jason says, yep, good book. Not sure which one he's talking about. Let's see. Ed says, KMO, I listened to the 3 Body Problem by Liu. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. It's very good. I hope that the Netflix production comes out soon. It is Chinese sci-fi, which is a rarity. Well, there's lots of Chinese sci-fi. Did you see the Wandering Earth movie? Oh my gosh, that's bonkers. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's fun. I recommend it. Jason says, the What If comics were better because they were deep dives into crazy ideas. I find the stories here kind of what you'd expect to see. The animation is crazy good. Absolutely. It is absolutely good. I love it. I'm really looking forward to season 2 of The Bad Batch. First season was great. You know, and their live action stuff. I'm looking forward to Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian season 3. Parker says, I have hopes for that, Ed. D&D have a show skill at adaptation. A shown skill at adaptation. So, D&D. What's D? Oh. I don't know. Anyway, we're about out of time, so the big reveal. Here we go. Ready? Oh, it's all flat now. It needs to be fluffy. But here we are. I hadn't taken into consideration what having it under wraps for the better part of an hour would do to it. It was much fluffier when I came over. All right, here we are. This is the hair. That is the live stream. Thank you to the participants in the chat. Is this a new style? Well, yes, because it had been so long since I had a proper haircut that I was really looking kind of like a wild man. I've never had this exact cut before. I've had a high and tight before, but I didn't leave so much fluffy stuff on top. Alrighty. Ed says, why do you let the TV studio people boss you around? Well, you know, without them, it's just me in front of my computer back in my apartment. You're the talent, man. Yeah, well, it's, I support the Hollywood workers, you know, behind the cameras. I'm glad they're not going to strike, but if they had struck, I would have supported it. All right, that's all. I got to go. Talk to you later.